explained before, this is a parish council planning meeting, or parish council meeting, where we're dealing with the items that are on the agenda. But there will be an opportunity for public participation under item 4. Those who have, there are some who have requested to speak, and obviously I'll go to those first. And if anyone else wishes to speak, hope you do, that done by show of hands after those have spoken. Please follow the guidance that was online. We will extend the 15 minutes. I know the agenda says 15 minutes, but it's clearly going to be longer than that for people to speak. But we would just ask you, not to be too verbose, but you can certainly be longer than the 3 minutes. When we come to the meeting, when the parish council make their decision and recommendations, the public, you won't be able to join in. You just have to sit and listen, I'm afraid. We did invite the applicants to come, but unfortunately they were unable to attend.
Result.
And we also invited the case officer, but for the district council, but they were unable to attend and felt that it could be inappropriate to do it because it showed a view. Just to remind people that we are only a statutory consultee and not the determining authority. That's North Devon District Council, and there will be a chance for you to address the District Council when they meet. Don't have a date for that at this stage. We're going to consider item 6. That's the consultation on behalf of the Marine Agency all at the same time, and then the responses will go back to both, because obviously that also affects the marine licence and the protected area. Following item 6A, that's following the Whitecross one, we will adjourn the meeting for a short period to allow members of the public to leave, if you wish to, because then we do have some business to negotiate. We're actually going to pay some bills, so we think we'd better do that. But if you've got any queries as you go along, then please do say. I just like to say welcome, I don't know what she's done there, Andrea Ormsby at the back there waving to me from BBC Spotlight, who's here, and Dean Chappell, who is filming and recording for the parish council. We're not live streaming it this time. It doesn't work very well in Braunton, the signal keeps going in and out. But that will be available tomorrow morning. And Ben Byram, and Ben is doing our sound. So when you wish to speak, he will come round with a roving microphone for you to speak. And we'd ask that you do so everybody can hear what you're saying. Okay, I don't think there's any queries. Welcome members of the public, obviously, but I also welcome councillors here from this committee, which is all of council. We do have apologies.
Yes, apologies received from Councillor Mark Can, who is away, Councillor Val Can, who is away, Councillor Graham Bow, who is away, Councillor Liz Spear for personal reasons, and Councillor Derek Spear for personal reasons.
Thank you. And technicalities, declarations of interest, I don't think any councillors have declared them, no. So we now come to the public participation part of the meeting, and the first person I'd call who's shown to speak is Helen Cooper.
Thank you. Hello everyone. One of our members is, Hello everyone. One of our members has put together a really detailed paper about the categorisation of the land at the back of the dunes that the developer will impact on. And we've printed it out for the council. We can make it available widely. It's a very sort of technical piece of work, but I was just going to read the conclusion. You have to bear with me because I've got my contacts in and this is very small. So, but basically, what she says is, as irreplaceable habitat is excluded at this early stage, the site cannot be considered in its real context. The real context of this area is one of highly distinctive and connected coastal marsh habitat, featuring areas of rare and irreplaceable habitat. Habitats are not parcels or units in real life, and the metric tool should not be used to discredit or exclude existing areas of habitat which border others, especially when no discussion or attention is given to those excluded areas that exist within the others areas that have been calculated. This is about biodiversity net gain, how the developer would offset any damage they cause in the process of running the cable at the back. This is especially unrealistic when the proposed works is a connected single line, not parcels of unconnected activity. It is an unbroken line of physical activity moving through a solid connected habitat of varying features, some of which are very rare and thus need representation. In light of this, we would recommend readers utilise caution and apply great scrutiny to the proposer's written text as given in all papers. Further, we would like to raise queries of the credibility and professionalism of the paperwork submitted. You won't be surprised by that. Countless errors and contradictions exist within the most basic of sections that need to be accurate and detailed representations of both baseline data and proposed methods of work. There is clearly a misunderstanding of biodiversity net gain metric tools, the device by which they measure the impact, and the advice from Natural England for its use, and as evidenced in this paper, an inability to deduce information from Phase 1 habitat maps, which should be fairly easy for the proposers at Flotation Energy, who claim that their entrepreneurial spirit provides a space for agile and critical thinking to thrive. So I think you get the gist of that, one of our main concerns is that basically this area of the land, the marshes in particular, contain peat. They sequester carbon, so they're already helping in the fight against climate change. And why would a developer think that it was a good idea to impact negatively on that area, let alone the amount of water that they contain? They would have to de-water the marshes to run the cables. Now that in itself, we've got someone else who can speak at much greater length and with more authority than I can on that subject, but it really does beg a belief that they would actually choose this as a correct route to take their cable or cables, whichever it might be. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And this is on the consultation site for the District Council, isn't it?
It will go on there, yeah.
So if anybody wants to read it in detail, then
Yes.
they can. Right. Our next one, that's Sue Prosper.
Microphone, please.
Sorry?
Microphone.
I was only going to say Sue Prosper. I don't know where she is. Sue Prosper is from local.
Good evening. Chair, councillors. This statement is in respect of agenda item 7, the planning application for Whitecross offshore wind farm onshore infrastructure. The National Planning Policy Framework presumption in favour of sustainable development means that for the decision taker, proposals must be approved if they accord with local plans, unless the application of policies in that framework that protect areas or assets of particular importance provide a clear reason for refusing the development proposed. These areas or assets are defined in the NPPF footnote 7 as habitat sites, SSSIs, AONBs, heritage coast and areas at risk of flooding or climate change. All of these types of areas are located in or are adjacent to the proposed onshore cable route. The framework document details in section 15 conserving and enhancing the natural environment, paragraphs 180 to 194, what development should consider. A number of these paragraphs in this section provide grounds for refusing this application given its potential impacts. Accordance with local plans for us means that applications should not only be compliant with North Devon and Torridge local plan, but with Braunton Parish neighbourhood plan, whose policies provide the specificity to our parish which the local plan cannot. The neighbourhood plan carries the same weight when determining an application as the local plan. When this proposal is considered against our local planning policies, its numerous adverse impacts significantly and demonstrably outweigh the claimed benefits. The potential damage that would be done to this highly designated landscape at national and world level by the proposed topsoil stripping, hedgerow removal, water drainage and installation of infrastructure does not accord with the claims of being a sustainable development. The scale of this application has very significant implications for the parish and the wider Northern Devon tourist economy, which is based upon its outstanding natural environment. This application does not comply with Braunton Parish Neighbourhood Plan policies, and we at Love Braunton are in the process of preparing a further submission to the LPA, which will illustrate why, despite the applicant's Appendix X claims that this application is not compliant with parish policies. It is a fundamentally flawed application driven solely by the applicant's granted request for a grid connection at Yelland, a site which in itself is problematic in terms of flood risk and visual impact on the estuary. The applicant continues to state the impact of all aspects of construction activity is minimal or negligible, with mitigation measures being embedded. It is extremely naive to accept that the numerous potential impacts being identified could or would be managed through the use of conditions, let alone that the proposed embedded mitigation will be monitored by the LPA during construction phases. Experience tells us that enforcing adherence to planning conditions does not have a good track record with North Devon LPA. For our parish, this application does not meet the criteria of sustainability, given its impact upon our economy, environment and social well-being during the construction period, which will be in excess of 24 months, and with the potential for further disruption following its completion. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I usually got a loud voice. Okay, thank you for listening to me. It's great to hear that there's such technical support from the previous presenters. Mine's going to be slightly different. It's going to come right from the heart as a sea user. I've been surfing now for around 50 years and have reached the ripe old age of 73. And I put a lot of that down to great physical strength and also my mental outlook on life. And I put that all down to surfing. Much of that 50 years has been spent here surfing at Staunton. And I'm not trying to tug at your heartstrings, but 3 or 4 days ago I was out surfing and there were porpoises going past me. I love that. It tells me the sea is clean-ish, which, you know, we hope it continues that way, but it also tells me they're not disrupted or frightened, they're happy in their environment. But I'm not here just to gloat about my surfing. What's more important, I represent tens of thousands, possibly millions of people that use that beach, whether it's swimmers, surf lifesavers, junior surfers, training, having competitions where 600 kids turn up. It's disabled access, it's so easy at Staunton, you can get to the beach. There's dog walkers, there's everything going on that beach. It's a kind of therapy. It's beach therapy for those on the sand, it's surf therapy for the people out in the sea. So hopefully I'm selling you the dream of why we do it, and thousands of millions come here. The next thing is, it's maybe not known, but the Staunton wave is arguably one of the best longboard waves in the world. And I would go on record of saying that. You can get a ride with fairly basic skills of 200 meters long. And there's not many places you can do that. and yet the place is a safe place to surf. It's a really, really safe haven. So, I really wanted to start by saying to the people that didn't turn up, we needn't even be in this room if they put the cable straight to Port Talbot. Yes, it costs more money, but it would arrive on an industrial shoreline. We know what the coastline looks at Port Talbot. We shouldn't even be in this room right now. And I know they'll give every excuse under the sun, but somebody somewhere is saving money, because that is a little bit more expensive, just like it's a bit more expensive to take the cable up the estuary. They're dodging every possible chance, and these are the points I really want to make. They are dodging it, and they've actually gone the cheapest route, but it's the most disruptive. They're trashing all the lovely nature that's there. Those porpoises aren't going to be there, they're not going to come back. And that's before we even talk about the disruption to the sandbars. Second highest tide range in the world. What do you think that's going to do? Already the cliffs at Saunton are falling down. The famous cave wave, it can't be called the cave wave anymore because the cave has gone, the whole cliff's gone. We can't afford vibration from machinery and tools to affect this area. So I've probably outrun my time, Chair. Overall, it's all about disruption. I haven't even got onto the economy yet. A lot of the people in this room are involved in the Braunton area. The surf industry, again, it sounds like I'm gloating about my favourite sport, is worth millions of pounds. Even if you're not a surfer, you'll have heard of Quicksilver or Kelly Slater or people like that. It's a big, big driver of business in this area, but it also drives people here. I know people that travel from Yorkshire, Scotland, Brighton to come and surf at Saunton, and they're just going to be put right off. And with it, the trade and the business in the area. So I've pretty much reached the end of my emotional rant, but it really is from the heart, and I'm just so, I can't say the word I really want to say, I'm really upset that the people cannot be bothered to even turn up. So I plead with you councillors and anybody with control, reject this completely as out of hand. We've seen the scientific info, I've given you the from the sea info and from the heart. So thank you very much.
So it's open to everyone else who'd like to speak. Just put your hand up and I'll take it from there. There's a hand at the back. Who's first?
Barry Shansworth. I'm just speaking on behalf of my grandchildren. We need to have in Britain a better form of creating energy. This is one of them. Maybe I think I agree with Eric. Take it to October, but we do need infrastructure that's going to support it. That's what we're saying. If it comes through this way, that's fine. It's our backyard. It's going to be somebody's backyard. I don't want to be in my backyard. It's got to be somewhere.
Can I just come back at that, because I'm a huge supporter of green energy. I've got solar panels on my house. I love it all, but you don't do green energy at the cost of everything and anything. We've got windmills, we've got solar farms up here. This area is very pro green energy, and so am I, and I'm sure most people in the room. But it's the root of the cable, Barry. That's all it is. It's the root of the cable.
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. That's what we do. Yeah. Someone else's backyard will do.
This links into the infrastructure. So physically here, you're looking at HGVs 92 at a peak, which is 20 tonne, 25 tonne plus peak. You've then got, on top of that, long vehicles, which are 80. So you're looking at 172 lorries being added to the chaos of the weekend, and that is on the prime route of link 1, 2, 12 and 6. So all past Staunton Park. Is anyone here linked in with the transport company, Evans? Could the parish organise that and actually display what it does to the village? on a working day, because as you've seen what happened at the weekend, North Devon will come to a stop. 100%. Physically, how big those lorries are. There's 2 types there, and the numbers are there. Thank you.
I've got somebody there.
Just say a few words. The gentleman surfer here has mentioned how many thousands and thousands of people come here surfing and enjoying our North Devon facilities. Is it possible, before they give up, when they find out what's going on, whether it would be possible to communicate with all these different organisations all over the country and wherever, to sign a petition to tell them what is going to happen, and they'll feel so sorry about it that hopefully they will sign a petition. We can have thousands and millions of signatures to bombard this West Cliff or whatever they're called. Whitecross, sorry.
I can't speak out of turn, can I? All I can say is thank you, and you're absolutely right. And luckily, there's a lady in the room that's organised that petition, and it's already out there. Where's Helen? Oh, she's there. Right. So there is a petition, and with the wonders of social media and stuff, I don't understand much. We're on that. So what are we up to now?
It's over 3,000 signatures so far.
So
And there's paper copies as well at the library. There's a paper copy.
So good point.
I didn't have anything prepared in here, but I'd just like to pick up something that somebody else mentioned about how important surfing and tourism is to the local industry, to the local area. When Whitecross had their consultation at Braunton School a while back, I did speak to their business specialists, economic specialists, about how they had managed to arrive at the conclusion in their submission that the effect on businesses in North Devon would be neutral or beneficial. I was quite surprised at that, as you can imagine. So I did ask where they got that data from, and what they told me was that they actually hadn't done any research, they hadn't actually done any analysis in the local area at all. When I asked them about what was the value of tourism to North Devon, they couldn't answer me. What they did say was that there was a potential £20 million worth of net economic benefit, which sounds like an awful lot of money until you realise that that's over the 25 years of the project and over the entire of the southwest, from Gloucestershire, Wiltshire, Dorset, Somerset, Bristol, all the way down to Cornwall. So I asked, well, where is that economic benefit coming from? And they said it was mostly supply chain. So I asked the obvious question. How much of that supply chain is going to come from North Devon? None. How much of that is going to come from the whole of Devon? Well, there might be one company in Exeter that might supply something to do with the cable. So I flipped that around and said, okay, well, if there's not any great economic benefit, have you looked at the economic risk? No. So what we have is an environment here where the natural environment is absolutely key to why people come here on holiday. Saunton Beach is the most photographed Instagram site in, I think it was 2022, 44,000 Instagram hits just of Staunton Beach. It's absolutely famous. People come here for surfing, they come here because it's safe, they come here because it's beautiful. And because they're coming to Saunton, they're also going out behind the dunes. They're cycling, they're using the South West Coast Path. They're going throughout that entire area, and they're basically planning to put a dual carriageway 30 metres wide through that vulnerable countryside, which even they admit they can't put back the way it was. So we're risking an enormous amount on our tourism business, not just because of the destruction and the noise and the pollution, but also the traffic, which again they don't seem to have come up with any realistic mitigating plans for. We already know that Braunton's a massive bottleneck. We've all been there, stuck trying to get through Braunton. I live the far side of Knoll. It can take me an hour to get from Knoll to Braunton on a changeover day. We know what it's like. You add HGVs and how slowly they move to an equation, and Braunton just comes to a standstill. And when Braunton comes to a standstill, tradesmen can't get through, care workers can't get through, locals can't get through, people can't get to Croyd, they can't get to Georgian. All of that backs up down the Saunton Road. So I just don't think they have looked in any way at the impact on tourism and the impact on local businesses.
Can someone tell me, please, as a matter of interest, who or what body of organisation would be giving Whitecross the permission to do that? Is it a government agency or a local agency?
The initial permission, if they get it, will be from North Devon District Council, who is the planning authority.
Yeah.
But all of the licences that they need will come from people like Natural England, the MMO, all sorts of others, all government, all mainly government agencies.
Yes. When you think of it though, this area, this beautiful area where I've been going to Saunton all my life, and for the sake of finance, it seems like they don't want to go to Port Talbot or Alfred Discott, which is terrible. Really, it just doesn't bear thinking about, because it could end up like another HS2 project. They could start it, they could cause absolute chaos, and then it might never be completed, or it might never be worth doing anyway. So.
Thank you. I would just like to add a figure to the cost, the value of the tourism industry to Northern Devon. And these are figures that I take from Devon County Council's own document produced in 2021. It is worth over £500 million a year. And when they list the attractions, you can, as you go down that list, you can tick off Saunton Sands, the Marshes, the AONB, the SSSI, the South West Coast Path. That's the benefit that they will have to exceed, I believe, which is unlikely.
Hello everyone, I'm Kate and I co-founded a landscape and gardening business including small coastal plant nursery in Braunton 12 years ago, and I've got 25 years experience in landscape construction and planting, including many years with the RHS. Our home and business is located alongside the construction corridor. I've got concerns about the project as small-scale groundworks on our site over the years have consistently flooded and collapsed due to the sandy soils, high water table and rapid rates of water infiltration and continuous water seepage. And I had previous comments from before. Having seen the latest data, I'd like to reinforce my view that groundworks of this scale would be extremely unpredictable and challenging and would realistically cause significant adverse impacts in both the short and long term. The potential environmental impacts of dewatering can be found further along in what I'm sort of preparing. The soil and water resources are of critical importance in Braunton boroughs due to their fundamental role in sustaining life and maintaining ecological balance. And the soil and water would be affected well beyond the construction corridor due to the extent of dewatering required for this project. The cable route had been decided, it looks as if the best and most feasible option before a spade had been put in the ground here, as the first ground investigation fieldwork was completed between the 6th of September and the 28th of October 2023, more or less the same time as the original plans were submitted. In the original plans, some minor dewatering was suggested to be needed in Braunton Marsh. The most recent report on ground investigations, Appendix T, still has very limited groundwater data. There was infrequent visits to 6 boreholes across the whole route from the golf course to Crow Point. The most recent visits on the 8th of November and the 19th of March. There is still no water below ground level measurement throughout the whole winter when groundwater is highest. The opportunity was there for them to look into winter groundwater levels, so I don't know why no one did. With this information help to inform worst case scenarios on this project. I've got a video of water running down Sandy Lane in January looking for somewhere to go, and I wonder if that's why. It's now confirmed that dewatering would be necessary throughout the whole trenched route, along with trench support, and the launch and reception pits for drilling would also need dewatering and support. Every test pit contained groundwater and collapsed in the trials. These were dug in fair weather in September when the water table was lowest and vegetation was in leaf. One of the few boreholes was found to have been located in artesian conditions, which basically means in the spring. And from our experience of digging on the burrows, I can say that I think that might happen a lot. I think where they dig, they might find water just keeps coming. The dewatering requirements for this project have now increased from some minor dewatering may be necessary, especially where the onshore export cable crosses Braunton Marsh, to Section 1 to Section 2, which is the golf course and Sandy Lane car park, will require dewatering and water management regimes prior to excavation, and Section 2 to 3, Sandy Lane car park to Crow Point, will require dewatering and water management regimes prior to excavation. The planning for the extensive and sensitive works in Section 0 to 1, including the car park and golf course, is based on limited data from 5 boreholes, and others will hopefully assess the risks of drilling here. The amounts of water needed to be pumped out of the ground and relocated would be significant. The data is limited to a few boreholes and test pits. It's not linked to rainfall measurements and cannot quantify the volumes of water that need to be pumped around. Well-point dewatering trials have not taken place here to prove its effectiveness. How many wells and pumps would be needed simultaneously down each section of trench? In our experience, pumps have to be kept on permanently during works to keep the area dry due to rapid water infiltration and continuous water seepage in this ground. There are no new risk assessments for noise despite the increase in dewatering requirements. There will be significant and ongoing noise from pumps and generators to keep areas dewatered. This will be in addition to the noise from drilling, machinery movements, lifting metal trench supports, shuttering into situ and fixing. This will disturb wildlife. These areas are very well used recreationally by locals and holidaymakers throughout the year. How many other environmental impact assessments and risk assessments were previously written on the assumption of minor dewatering in the marshes and not large-scale dewatering throughout? Given the unstable ground conditions, the mitigations intended to gradually release filtered water back into the environment seem unfeasible or unsafe due to soil collapse. These include trenches along the edges of the corridor and settlement lagoons. There are no links made between the rainfall at Chivham and the water table. Only over the last 5 years, there have been up to 30 days a year with rainfalls above 10 millimetres in 24 hours. It would be very difficult to safely maintain dewatered areas and implement the mitigations required to protect the soils and watercourses. Local farmers have limits to the water they can abstract, and there's no quantification of the amount of water needed to be abstracted for drilling, water flush and other construction activities. And then I said, please direct me to this or any other data if I've missed it. The information in these reports is not always in the most obvious place. Like many others, I've got limited time to look at this in August. It's our busiest time of year, and we also have family commitments. Just quickly, the DEFRA Code of Practice for the Sustainable Use of Soils and Construction Sites, which they quote, states that if sustained heavy rainfall above 10 millimetres in 24 hours occurs during soil stripping operations, work must be suspended and not restarted until the ground has had at least a full dry day. This will likely cause delays to the project, as recent years have reliably had over 25 years of rainfall above 10 millimetres in 24 hours. These regulations are in regard to soils in construction sites, and abundance of caution should be needed to protect the soils here. The timescales for these works seems to have been reduced when the requirements for dewatering and trench support and their associated mitigations have increased. I cannot underestimate how much more time this would take. Many permissions are likely to be required for this project on an ad hoc, ongoing basis from stakeholders as it progresses, from the IDB, Environment Agency, landowners and others. This could include permission to flood land during dewatering. Are these permissions guaranteed, and would this cause delays? Our landscaping experience following on from large construction projects along the coast is that they've always had considerable overruns due to problems coordinating contractors, delays for equipment and materials, wet and windy weather and other unforeseen circumstances. The timing of these works would have to be prioritised around the challenging ground conditions. How long would work stop if a warbler nest is found in a ditch? Meticulous timing is critical to avoid disturbance to wildlife, including nesting and migrating birds and the tourist economy. This has been promised. It's unrealistic. A delay in one area will throw the timings and extend the timescale. There are beautiful pictures of Saunton and the burrows on the Whitecross website, and they do nothing to help anyone appreciate the scale of these works. There are illustrated photos of the machinery and infrastructure involved can be found deep in the Geotechnical Interpretive Report. These photographs of machinery and works are in dry conditions and certainly do not reflect the muddy mess of working in the rain or in waterlogged ground. And then that's about, and then I've got more information about dewatering and soils.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Arthur Cole. I live out at Saunton, and I've lived out there for nearly half a century now. The fields that surround our property, harping on commenting on your water levels, you've only got to dig down about 2 to 3 feet, and you've got water all times of the year. During the winter months, obviously it's a great deal higher. Today, I'm very concerned about the car parking arrangements that are going to have been put forward regarding the works at Swanton Car Park and the relief that's going to be in the field adjacent to our house. Now, to this afternoon, with the rain we've had this afternoon, if we'd have had vehicles in the car park this afternoon, you wouldn't have got them out. It's only possible to use that field for anything other than pasture, probably 4 or 5 weeks a year, and that'll be it. And then it's got to be sunny days, and it's got to be very dry. So it's purely a bad move. Anyway, that's really all I've got to say. I'm not used to speaking to people in front of people like this, but I think it's going to be disastrous for our village. With all the traffic moving through, as it will be, and I just feel that it's just not the right thing to do. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I've got nothing else to say.
Can I just say, does everybody know the field that Arthur's talking about? I had there was a lot of blank faces then. As you go through the bends at Saunton, Arthur lives in the very first thatched cottage on the left-hand side, Horseshoe Cottage. Just after his cottage, there's a 5-bar gate. The proposal that's coming up is that to mitigate the loss of parking on Saunton Beach car park, they're going to put a temporary car park in that field with a shuttle bus service to Saunton. So all you guys have got a longboard each. You're going to have your own personal bus, okay? Because it's going to be one person, one longboard. Sorry, can I just go over here first because they were first. There we go.
Thank you, Ben. I'm Patrick Farrelly. I also live at Saunton, and I'm just going to follow up what Arthur's been saying. This park and ride, which is just under a mile from the beach, is designed to mitigate the objections that were raised initially to the loss of the 200 parking spaces. It's going to a field just under a mile from the beach, and they're expecting families with all the paraphernalia that go with them, dogs, some windbreaks, picnic baskets, bodyboards, you name it, to move from this field to the beach. How they're going to do it, I don't know, and all I would suggest is that when a family has tried to do it once, they won't come back and they will go somewhere else, which will then remove this claim that by putting this 200 park and ride car park in, it will help keep going the economy and help the beach and everything that goes on the beach. I'm afraid it is a cynical approach to countering an original objection. Thank you.
to say that I'd be very worried about the Great Sea Bank, which runs from the White House to the Toll House, built in around 1811, that the traffic running along the toll road will do a lot of damage to the toll road and endanger our bank, which protects our salt marsh and also the great field in the future with the rising sea levels. That's pretty much all I've got to say, but if that bank goes, then a lot of our area would be very damaged.
Go to the young lady over here first. She's better looking than you, Jim. So.
Hi, my name's Bo. Nobody's actually mentioned the children. We have a school right on the main road going to Saunton with 98 possible lorries coming in and out of the village. Has anyone thought what that's going to do to their lungs? Are we going to have children's lives on our hands who die because of asthma and respiratory diseases? I cannot underestimate what this is going to impact on our beautiful young children. And it just makes me so sad to think that somebody could potentially die. And this isn't just make-believe, this isn't fairyland. We know that children die from respiratory diseases caused by traffic, from exhaust fumes. We all know what it's like to walk through Braunton every day. You can actually feel that sort of soggy mass of diesel particulates going into your lungs, and children who suffer from asthma really don't have a chance. Please, please do not let this project go ahead for their sake. Thank you.
Some of you will know me and some won't. My name is Jim Goodwin. And what I've got to say is I do not understand why they want to come up the beach. Because if you couldn't put a train through this, across from England to France in a tunnel, there's no reason why you can't put a deep sea cable up the estuary into the old power station somewhere. I think they're just putting the wool over your eyes, the cheapness.
Sorry, this is just to back you up with the school. It's not 92 lorries, it's 344. That's one journey each way. They're not counting it as two. That lorry goes up, it comes back past the school. For the HGVs, it's 92, so that's now 184. The LGVs, which is another problem on the crossroad that no one's even entertained. As you thought there, it was 92, it's not, it's 344 maximum.
Do you remember the last meeting that we were at?
I wasn't here.
Okay.
Sorry.
They've not
No, that's, I was back here going more than that. Everyone's got to realise it's not 92, it's not their numbers, it's, that's each way.
Down the front.
Sorry, I just wanted to follow up a little bit on something that has kind of been said before, particularly with the soil. I've had some experience managing large projects, and one thing I've learned over 25 years of managing projects is that timescales go up, not down. So when this project was first proposed, I think the timeline was about 2 years. And then all the objections were raised, and miraculously, even in the face of all the objections, the timescales halved. And I've done projects like that, and what happens is somebody says, I don't like your timeline, how can you make it shorter? So you cut things out, and you jiggle things around, and at the end of it you go, ta-da, there you go, there's my short timeline, isn't it lovely? And everybody goes, yeah, that sounds much better now, 1 year is much better than 2 years. The reality is that everything has been condensed. I've seen no evidence of contingency. So what happens when you encounter flooding, you encounter subsidence, there's problems along the route? Do they then say, okay, we said we'd stop because it's now tourism season, or it's bird nesting season, or it's that season, so we're going to stop now, just like we said we would. We're going to take all that machinery out for the next so many months, and then we're going to bring it all back in again? Or are they just going to say, sorry, we're committed now, we're just going to plough on through, and all of these mitigations around traffic and parking and HGVs and whatever completely go out of the window And what you end up with is not a 2-year project that became a 1-year project, it's a 2-year project that's become a 3 or 4-year project. There's no contingency, there's no proper risk analysis in any of this. This could go on indefinitely and do so much distraction. The reality is that they say there were other areas that were considered and they rejected them, and therefore this is viable. I cannot see, with all of the issues that are being raised, in what sense this is viable. It might be, in their view, the best of the ones that they looked at, but that doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's acceptable. If this doesn't work, and it doesn't, then they should simply find something else. And if that doesn't work, then well, I'm sorry, Whitecross, that's how it goes. You don't get to do it just because you want to.
So I just wanted to say something about the route selection, and there's a few things that I don't know if everyone in the room is aware of, but they've Whitecross have said that the grid connection was given to them by National Grid. Yeah, that's true, but the reason the grid connection was given to them by National Grid is because that's the connection they asked for. So, and I have that in writing. So, there's it's what you might call an error by omission, I think. So there's that. They're also, when they looked at the routes, say, on the other side of the estuary, they used a metric for judging that, which we've kind of clarified. I forget which body we clarified it with, but we've clarified it. I don't know if it's with DEFRA or maybe it's Natural England. Anyway, Historic England. They've decided to include the impact of an underground cable on Grade 2 listing buildings, and they've put a 250 metre exclusion zone around each Grade 2 listed building. Now, surprisingly, perhaps unsurprisingly, Grade 2 listed buildings are actually very common in this country. Grade 1 are very uncommon, but Grade 2 are a lot more common. So quite why they've decided to create this arbitrary distinction is beyond us. We don't think it bears any, holds any water, should I say. And something on the, so there's two major things, I think. It's a bit like they're making up as they go along, just to make, to satisfy the legal, should there be any legal challenge to this. And they have actually clarified that on their application. They've said that not that their choice was justified, but that it was legal. So that tells you what they're expecting, I think. What I would say as well is in this room in October last year, they actually said there were Whitecross representatives here, and they said they would liaise with the Parish Council every step of the way. Now I'd just like to ask Marguerite, did they liaise with you every step of the way? Okay, so did they ask you about the park and ride, or did they prohibit you from seeing it?
It hasn't come as a planning application, so it's not come to us.
Okay, so you've had no direct contact from them with regard to the park and ride, despite the fact it's in your parish?
The only way that we know about it is what we've been told by residents.
Okay, so that's really poor, isn't it? I find that disrespectful for the whole process. This meeting is out of process. Our campaign group called for it, and the Parish Council were kind enough to facilitate it, and I do thank you for that, and appreciate everybody that's come here. So, but the reason we wanted it was because when the consultations that were held in May by Whitecross, actually all the ongoing information that the planning case officer had asked for was still being collated. That didn't stop them from creating a video or getting their PR company to create a video saying they'd actually finished all the surveys. So this is the sort of people we're dealing with. You can put on a glossy video and make everything look great, but in reality what's happening in the back it's not robust. So that's the issue that we really have. It's very difficult. It's like we're on quicksand with this company. They're not playing with a straight bat, is how I would put it if I was being polite. If I was down the pub, I'd say something different. But you know, you get the idea. This isn't. We're not besmirching them, but they are a small energy provider. They've got one other project, which is in floating offshore wind, which is up in Kincardine, which was 5 turbines. So this for them is a big project. For other companies, it's a small project. And 2 of those turbines failed, and they had to get taken, I think, to the Netherlands or Spain. So they get towed out. They wouldn't come into local ports to be mended. So that's worth knowing as well. So the way they're presenting themselves is that they have some degree of expertise that we feel they lack. And that's really all I've got. I mean, I could go on all day about this stuff, you know. But thanks for your time. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for attending. And everyone that's spoken has spoken really, really well. Really, really, I just like everyone's contribution. It's all very direct, very honest. It's really valid. And I would like to think that we would be met with the same from the other side. But unfortunately, I think that just hasn't been the case. You know, and I can't see any signs of it improving. I think the fact that they haven't come here tonight is an absolute PR disaster. You know, their company, they're based in Edinburgh, we get that, but their PR company is based in Cornwall. Surely they could have got themselves here, at least to face the music to some extent. It's not really about what's in process, it's about winning hearts and minds. And I just feel like, as my friend over there said, they've lost ground that they'll never make up now. This was just an own goal from them. The whole thing could have been so very different, because essentially everybody here, there's nobody that's gone against green energy. Everyone's pro-green energy. But why would we sacrifice what we've got as a highly, highly designated area with more, it's alphabet soup, that's what I say about it. It's got so many letters after its name. You know, it's already fighting climate change. Why would you put 1 or 2 cables through that for a green? If it was a fossil fuel company, you know, if it's an oil or a gas pipeline, everyone would be up in arms. But because it's a green project, it's okay. Well, it isn't okay, is it? You know, what do they want? Do they want to, if they go through here, they can go anywhere in the world, because it's known that the UK has very strict laws on ecology and damage to the environment. So we think it's a cynical attempt, although they're inept in a lot of ways, we think perhaps there's a slightly more cynical motive behind choosing this route. So thanks for your time.
Hello, my name is Ray Young. I know many of the parish councillors, and I know they work very hard. I actually came to that public consultation in May, and I asked one of the PR people, who had nice Whitecross jumpers on, what the object of this project actually was. And they said it's a demonstration to prove the technology works. And I thought, well, we've got offshore wind farms all around England and Scotland. Why do we need technology that proves it works if it's already in process? And I thought, well, okay, scrub around that. So this is a demonstration, right? They bring it ashore here, fine, okay. I said, well, if it works out and it's correct, what happens after that? And she said, oh, well, they extend the field further out to the Celtic Sea, and they have more wind turbines. And I said, fine. Where does the energy from them come ashore? Oh, West Wales. I said, so you're bringing the original one here, and anything that happens further out goes to West Wales. I said, why don't you take this lot to West Wales? Because then you'll have the infrastructure for what follows on. And she said, oh, that's not the plan. And that was it. It's not the plan.
Now, I used to be the secretary of a protest group that was seeking to prevent quarrying in Derbyshire. Okay, you might think, what's that mean to this particular discussion? But what it really means is that we found that the way that we made progress
was through the local council and the planning department. And it was most crucial to have really good relationships with the planning department and to carry them along and to make certain that they understood everything, that all the arguments that we've been hearing there. So, I mean, they're going to be making the decision, and they're the ones that we have to get on side. And I think it's most important that we strategically look at the way in which we work with the planning department in order to get them to take the right decision.
So, leading on from that, the process, as the parish, leading on from the process, has North Devon Council and the parish liaised with Devon and Cornwall Constabulary about the financial cost that there will be process. That's if this is ever approved, it will not be a straight cut line for them. There will be process like you've seen everywhere else. What data is there from those other builds that have gone on that have had process digging in trees, whatever you see fit, or anyone sees fit, that there will be from people in different communities will integrate differently. What's the financial cost? You haven't got the police dealing with the LGVs stuck at the corner. They're all going to be over there. There's a financial.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Yes.
Hang on,
Yeah, just following on from what Patrick was saying earlier. Yeah, I can see that this relief car park they're putting around in the field behind our house, should it happen, I can see people walking up the road because they won't wait for the bus. They will start walking up the road with their boards, their children, and pushchairs and this, that, and the other. And I see an accident waiting to happen. It'll be disastrous for it, really. But anyway, there, I just thought I'd add that.
Nobody else?
Yeah, short, sweet.
There's somebody at the back, Ben. Sorry. I think Ben's getting more exercise than everybody else.
Thank you. It's, to me, I live in Ilfracombe, so this is not about my particular patch, but originally when Helen told me about it, I said, well, this is just pure NIMBYism, isn't it? It's just, don't want it here, move it along. And it's not that at all. It is, you know, we're all here for green energy. The last thing we want is somebody building a power station or going back to oil or whatever. But somewhere you have to draw literally a line in the sand and say, this is a UNESCO biosphere, this is a unique, the only set of dunes in the world, and the only beach like that in the world. It's world renowned. So at what point do you say, we're actually doing this as a country? Somewhere you have to say, we're not, you know, can you dig up Snowdonia? No, you shouldn't. But this is the next thing, you know. Where do you actually say, that's it, that's enough, finish. You're not doing this. You just have to go elsewhere, stick it down under the river. It's not going across that beach. Because all that's going to happen is we don't even need to worry about the tourism thing, because who wants to go to a beach that's going to be a giant building site, probably for upwards of 8 years, I would guess. Because if you look at what happened with HS2, things don't work well in this country. You know, nothing ever gets built on time, and it's just going to drag on, and we'll be left in a sea of mud, as usual. Thank you.
Any more? Oh.
Hello. I just wanted to add on to the biodiversity thing, that when they were here last year they said that they had to restore it plus 10%. What they didn't say was that 10% doesn't have to be here. So they can sell that to another, or someone can buy it from them, and then they wouldn't have to restore it here, it would go somewhere else.
Anybody else? I've got nothing to say either, you'll be surprised to hear.
You usually join in there.
They all went home last time I spoke, didn't they?
Right, does anybody else wish to speak or make a point? Please do, if you wish to.
This is a bit cheeky, but my mother did it quite a long time ago. They were trying to build on some land which was totally inappropriate in our village, Shiny Village in Puddington. And she said, I'm prepared to lie in front of the bulldozers. Well, I'm going to take that mantle over now, and I'm quite prepared to lie in front of the bulldozers. I think everyone else will do too.
I think this was the point made by the gentleman at the back.
That's you, Luke. You're in there. You're at the front. Swampy of Braunton.
Can I just say, we wouldn't be getting any tunnels though, because they'll be flooded.
Hello, I just had a quick question. What can we do collectively to kind of promote? I've been sort of signed the petition to the council to raise objections. There was a recent poll just with regards to our own subjective experiences of Saunton Sands. I wondered what do you think? What collectively can we do to raise awareness? Because I agree with the lady in front of me. I think it's a matter of principle now that we have to say this is fundamentally wrong. There's so many reasons to me that it seems illogical and brutal to desecrate a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What can we do to raise awareness locally and also maybe on a national level? Beyond that, I just wondered what our collective thoughts were.
For a start, you're talking to the BBC, don't forget. So that will spread the word.
I suppose, really, Margaret, we need to know who is actually going to talk and who's allowed to talk at the actual planning meeting. And then, at the planning meeting, each of those people that actually talk about one subject. And we've got these experts here today, different experts. You need to talk about one subject and not waffle on about lots of different things. So, if there were 6 people allowed to talk, you talk about your specialist subject and that particular impact the project's going to have on that particular subject. That way you've got 6 experts, 8 experts talking about one specific thing. You can get a lot of detail in your 3 minutes. I'm sorry, I think is it 3 minutes you're allowed to talk for? 3 minutes you're allowed to talk for. So that's the thing. Get the plan together. Who's going to talk about what at that planning meeting? So one person needs to actually coordinate that as such, so that you're all talking, not from any particular organisation, but you're talking about one subject and being expert in that particular subject. Yes? That's certainly how that can move forward. Bit of planning needed.
Is somebody here going to organise that? I'm looking at her. And liaise with the council so we can do that. And we do have 2 district councillors here tonight, so they're busy listening. Prue Maskell and Simon. Went probably completely. Yeah.
So, to the lady at the back, sorry, I don't know your name, but are you part of the SOS group? Brilliant, yeah. Well, we're always looking for help. We've got loads of I've put the leaflets out today. If you message me personally, then I will task you. Don't worry, there's plenty to do. What I would say is that because it hasn't even gone to planning yet, there's a lot of. I think it's probably it's harder to motivate people to go against something that hasn't yet happened. It's hard to motivate people to go against a green energy project. I mean, there are still people in this village that think that our group is about against the wind farm. It doesn't matter how many times we say that it's just a cable route we're objecting to. People sort of mischaracterise you. Now, it's not the smallest violin in the world, I'm just stating a fact. But the way the campaign has gone is it's like a build it and they will come thing. I don't think although it would be brilliant, if we have tried Chris Packham, we've got Stanley Johnson involved, that's fine to have those personalities. I'm not disrespecting that approach, but I think as well, like the gentleman here said, this is a small place and people like to keep their heads down, and I totally get that. Obviously, I'm not one of those people. My head is well truly up. So I think you kind of have to play the field that or the hand's been given. So if we were in Brighton or somewhere, then I think a lot more people would be willing to be outspoken, like the guy at the back saying about, and the lady about, obstructing progress in a physical way. But in this sort of area, we need to be mindful of people in business. It's a very difficult position they're in. The people at the back who might get compulsory purchase, they're in an awkward position. It's very wrong to think that we should go against each other and start, because that's kind of what companies like this rely on. We need to be united, not find division between us. So at the same time, one reason I'm mentioning that is because we could quite easily think, well, why aren't more people doing more? I think it's growing at the rate it grows. It's an organic process. I think when we get to the planning committee, then it will stir things up again. And if we get to a judicial review or an appeal scenario after the decision that the planning committee make, then we will garner more publicity. The BBC will no doubt attend that meeting, which will probably be, I think Sue Prosper said, sort of early October time. And that it will just grow at its own rate. At the moment, it's this, as I keep repeating to people, it's just an idea, Whitecross. They haven't even got the seabed licence, the lease from the Crown Estate, because when they applied for it, when they started the project, the process was you get the grid connection first and then you get the seabed licence lease. So now that process has actually flipped, you do it the other way around. But so everything is in a state of flux, that's my point. Sorry it's a long-winded answer, but I think we've done well. I think the community's responded positively. It's growing at the rate it's growing, and as I said, once it's maybe a little bit formed as a concept, then there'll be more to work with, as it were, more to go against. So message me and I'll give you a job, don't worry. Thank you for your interest and support.
It's also worth saying that Braunton Parish Council meet fortnightly, and there is always a part in the meeting for public participation. So even while this is going, we make our decision or our submission tonight, but even after that, you can still come to us and we can organise something. And whatever does happen, don't forget that in the future, if they get it, there will be conditions. And one of the things that we pledged last time is we will monitor those decisions, those conditions, every time to make sure they keep it. We hope it doesn't come to that, but we have to wait and see. But please, do contact us or contact Tracy, our clerk, and we can all work together. I think that's the strength of it. Does anybody else wish to speak? This is the last chance for you as the public to actually take part in a meeting. It now moves into a council meeting, and obviously you can sit and listen, and we hope you will. But if anybody wants any point that they want to bring up, please do say now. It's an argument going down here on the front as to whether something to speak or not.
I don't need a microphone for this, but will we get to hear who votes for and against by councillor by councillor? Will we see that?
Sit here and listen.
I've just had 5 days with the grandkids. I'm a broken man.
tomorrow on our website, Facebook and other areas. So you can sit and watch it.
Thank you.
All right. Gentleman at the back.
There's something in the community the parish could ask for, and that's the CO, the CLR 24, how many vehicles they could roll out that have got daily access to the training area. And that will give you, if they can roll out how many lorries an hour, at your prime time when you've got problems around the schools, tourist areas, they might want help.
Can I also encourage you, if you haven't made submissions on the district council site for this planning application, please do. There are an awful lot there, but not so many from this year. So if you haven't made a submission, you haven't put in your points, please do, because they will be considered by the planning department and then on from there if it's necessary. But if you haven't done that, actually just saying it isn't enough. You've got to write it and send it in. It doesn't have to be a professional response, but please do that and make sure that you do. It's quite easy to find. So all you do is on North Devon District Council planning site.
Number 77576.
Thank you.
Marguerite, just what I was going to say, nothing. The planning department are very overstretched, as we know, and they're not experts in every single area of planning, and every single line and every paragraph. I was involved with something else the other side of the water, and we actually got a friend of ours as a planning officer in Bristol, and he looked at the application and he wrote us a 7-page document back in great detail on all these little tiny idiosyncrasies of planning that came through. They don't know about the hydrology. There's various bits and pieces they don't know, which are very intricate. There's lots of experts here, and it's really, really important that you guys put your expert knowledge to them. They'll see a chink of knowledge coming through on a piece of paper, and they'll say, just check that. They'll look it up and they'll say, didn't even think of that. And there's lots of it deeply embedded in planning that they don't come across every day, and they don't see, and they've got little knowledge of, or they've forgotten about, or they haven't got time to dig that deep. But once you put an idea in their heads, that little chink of information, they'll then dig into it. This is exactly what happened. And we had a private project turned down the other side of the water. Believe it or not, on hedgerows, the planning officer didn't know the intricacies of hedgerows and how much you had to take out, when you could take them out, and so on and so forth. Once we got all that deep information, the project was stopped. So, you experts, and there's loads of you out there because we've heard you tonight, get that information in, and it's that expert information that that they need to back the planning rejection or whatever up. Okay, that's my honest advice from personal experience.
Can I just mention that they intend to take out 500 metres of hedgerows. So this is going to have quite an impact on the bird life, on the breeding birds, on Braunton marshes.
Well, make sure you make that point in on the website.
Sorry. Totally missed that. I do beg your pardon. I just had another. Could you? All I've been asked is, before everybody leaves, what's the time scale of you guys? Are you going to vote on this now in the next 5 minutes?
Well,
or are you going to do something else and then come back to it in a minute?
I'm not sure it would be down to 5 minutes, Ben. But yes, once everybody's had their say, then we go into a meeting. But everybody sits there and listens to it, because parish council meetings are meetings in public. Unless it's something which is of confidential nature, they're in public. So sit there and listen to what is said and what the decision will be. Ben, I think there's somebody at the back waving an arm.
Thank you. What the reason I ask is because we'd like the public's reaction for the camera when you make your decision. So we'd like you all to stay so that we can get your reaction to the decision. Is that okay? Excellent. I'll just go to this gentleman at the back. Sorry. was not going to get involved tonight. I promise not to, but here we go.
I'd just like to say a few words on behalf of family members, really. So, the gentleman in front of me has obviously a different opinion. I have young girls at home who I came to the meeting back in May and was told on the biodiversity net gain it was actually going to take 35 years to make good the destruction that is being obviously discussed about being made. So, having an 11-year-old daughter at home is going to be 46 potentially by the time that it's obviously back to how it was, and they can't guarantee that it's going to get back to that sort of that state. Who's going to be there in 35 years' time to say, I'm really sorry, but you didn't actually achieve what you were supposed to achieve? And also have family members who are ecologists, and they work really, really hard to protect areas like this. UNESCO Biosphere, which is we're one of 7 in the UK. So to think that they can, take this as a route when obviously there's many other alternatives than 1 in 7 of a protected site and a World Heritage Site.
I'm looking, I can't see anybody else showing.
Oh, yes. Hi, my name's Gwawd. We've lived in the village for about 3 years. I've worked at Kane Primary School I was there for 6 years, and being a parent who's dropping children off, picking up and everything like that, walking from the school towards the traffic lights where it narrows, at the moment it's quite petrifying anyway, especially when there's a bus or a lorry or a van. All it takes is one child to spot a friend across the road, or his mate or her mate to go, hey, how are you doing? And they step out. Or, a little one from nursery reception class presses the button for the traffic lights, and then they don't even wait for them sometimes, and they just step out. And for me, as a parent, I'm sure grandparents and everybody, that's my main concern is, yes, I'm worried about the beach and about the burrows, I use them every day, but for me, the main thing is the amount of traffic that's going to be coming into a really busy village anyway. This weekend, I didn't even leave the house because there was no point, because I was living in the village, I was not going anywhere. But yeah, for these kids, we've got Kane, we've got Southmead, we've got Kingsacre, the Academy. Kids mess about by roads, and that's what they do. So yeah, that's one of my main concerns. Thank you.
Back to you now.
I think that's it. So we'll now go into committee, which is obviously down to the councillors, to give their viewpoints. It's worth saying that we have made the submission that we made before, and I don't think there will be any route or idea proposal to change that, but it will be additions from the councillors. What I want to do is, if you look on your agenda, councillors, we have got the marine licence from the MMO. I'd like to consider that with the planning application, because while we have initially talked about the effect this is going to have on the village, we need to look at the effect that this is going to have on Lundy, which is a marine conservation zone. 50 years it's celebrating now. It's one of the first, third first in the country. So it's a voluntary one. So I will be putting forward something to say about that, which is particularly for the first item. Tracy's got a lot of notes that she's writing here from this, but now I don't know. To councillors, who wants to kick off? Tim. Oh, there you go. Councillor David Ralph first.
Thank you very much, Chair. Is that okay in terms of the microphone? Hi everybody, my name is David Ralph, and my position is that we should continue to object to this proposal, and I want to make a general comment before picking up 3 specific things which I think we should add to our response, which I think seems to come up this evening, where I think we can really strengthen our objection to particular kind of technical aspects of the proposal. So my position, as I think is the same with a number of people sat here, is that this is just a crazy application in terms of the route. No objection at all. I'm a very big supporter of green energy, as you'd expect, because I'm a member of the Green Party, but this is just the wrong place to come ashore and the wrong place to put the cable. And to answer the question which you asked at the back about what can you do, I think the first one is to reiterate what people have said about making representations. I can't underemphasise the importance of making even a small representation to the consultation at district level. If anybody has any questions about that process or is worried about it, then I would be very, very keen to help. I don't want to tell you what to say, I just want to enable you to say it. But there are 2 aspects to this from a planning decision-making perspective. One is the very detailed consideration of, is this an application which you can convince yourself was just about compliant with national planning policy? And the answer in some strange universe may be yes. But there is a wider issue here, which is about the sort of things which you've been all talking about. The damage that this will cause to the natural environment, the sheer lack of common sense around any of the broad proposal. And this is where I think it would be entirely legitimate, for example, for you, as well as making representations here, to connect to our local MP, newly elected Ian Room. Often MPs are worried about getting involved in planning applications, but I think it would be entirely legitimate for you to make those very general points about the suitability of this scheme to him. And I think that MPs can influence things which we can't. And I think if you are minded to do so, then I would really recommend or encourage you to try and get him involved. Specifically, I think there are a number of areas which have come up where I would propose that as a council we either add to or strengthen our current position, which is to reject this proposal. This isn't comprehensive, but these are the things which have stuck in my mind from today's discussion. The first one is emphasising the point that the ecological assessments of the impacts of the proposal needs to be considered in the wider context of the area, and not just the very specific description of what will happen in the 30 metres of the trench which you're going to dig. That's something which I think is worth emphasising. The second point is to emphasise the importance of the neighbourhood plan with regard to this, and to be quite forceful, I think, with the planning authority about the weight that should be given to that plan, because my impression is that the way in which that's been applied has been not completely consistent at council level. The third point is about the unsuitability of the field selected for the overflow parking. That, I think, is an additional and very strong point. And then finally, I think the consideration of the groundwater issues and the requirement to de-water much more of the scheme was originally proposed, I think is a very powerful and important point, which I think we should emphasise additionally in our representation. But I just wanted to say thank you to you all for attending. Thank you for the work you're putting into this. I think local democracy is always strengthened by participation, so please consider coming along to more of our meetings and maybe even become a councillor yourself. That's it, thanks.
It's worth saying that the submission that we made before did have a lot of references to the neighbourhood plan, because Tracy puts them in and they're considered for every planning application we take. So that is there. Can I ask other councillors, what points they wish to make? Adrian.
Hi, I'm Adrian Bryant, and the point I'd like to make is that for where the cable comes ashore at Saunton, that is the main peak that everyone likes to surf. So the fact that the company has the ability to bury the cable there without getting any research on what that's going to do to the contour of the ocean bed. Now, the contour of the ocean bed is really important because that makes the wave. So if you change that contour, and nobody knows until they actually put that cable in there, and they have permission to put a concrete mattress in there. If the cable floats up in the sand, or they can chuck rocks all over the cable to hold it down. You know what storms are like in winter here, they shift sand about. So this is experimental for a reason. It's an experimental project because nobody knows what's going to happen. So they're basically using us as guinea pigs. And that's really unfair on when our main economy is surfing is one of them, yeah, tourism of course. So we need to put as a council that the company Whitecross haven't done that research. They will tell you that they have done wave modelling, but that is not true because I've asked them directly, and the wave modelling they've done is on the ocean platform that's out at sea, not on Saunton Beach. So that is something I would like to add to our submission tonight. And the other thing I'd like to say is that when you drive along the Link Road, you're greeted with a sign which North Devon Council and North Devon Biosphere put their name to, and it is "Welcome to North Devon, world class by nature." And I really want to hold them to that. You know, if they really do believe in it, the planning department, we shouldn't even be here. The planning department should have kicked this out. In fact, they did ask to withdraw this application, but Whitecross said no, we are not going to withdraw it. So it's really important. Everyone here, you all really care about this application. Please contact the planning department. Contact Ian Roon, our MP, and think about other people that might be involved here. We've got 2 district councillors here. Both of them, I believe, called in this application to the Secretary of State, and that is Angela Rayner. So please contact Angela Rayner. The more people you contact, the more noise you make. You have the power to change this. We agree with green energy. We're at consensus here, but it's the route that has to be changed. We haven't even got on to UNESCO. We're one of 3 UNESCO sites in England. This is the largest, the biggest dunescape here. SSIs all over the place. What does that mean if a cable development like this goes ahead? It's just, it makes me feel like it's not worth the paper it's written on. So it's really basically down to people power, and that's where you come in. So please talk to people about it. It's the local community that's going to make the change. Demand change and it will happen. So yeah, please tell everyone you know. So that is my point on this development.
We did talk, it is worth saying that the Parish Council have written to UNESCO in Paris, but all we've had back so far is an acknowledgement. We're trying to go high to UNESCO itself in Paris and in Switzerland, and we will continue to push that because we want to know how much they know about this, where it's the main thing. There is a London committee for UNESCO, and that we are contacting as well as Parish Council. But as yet, I don't know if we've had a reply, have we, Trace? No. No. So, right, I'm looking at other councillors. Just sitting there looking at Ray, you had a point to make.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. My biggest concern, I think, I'm obviously against this proposal anyhow, but I think it's going to have a far greater effect than most of us imagine. This is traffic. It affects all of us in this room. We shop, we live, we work in this village. Increased traffic is obviously going to be a disadvantage to us. For a long time now, the traffic in Braunton has been increasing. Particularly, I think it's increased probably this year. Any of you who listen to BBC Radio Devon will hear in the traffic reports delays in Braunton. And we go back to mention that someone just now about the car park at Saunton, the park they'll be using for their equipment. We had a classic example on Sunday, I believe, when the existing car park, which will be much reduced when they're working on down there, we had a traffic jam which stretched from Saunton right back to Long. I know it is an exception, but it illustrates the volume of traffic that we have in the village. And I know I said it affects everyone that's here. It'll affect the great wide world outside there. It'll affect the people that live in Wollacombe, in Ilfracombe, and all the surrounding areas. We cannot let this project head.
Worth adding to that, those that were listening on Sunday afternoon will have heard at least 3 sets of emergency vehicles that all went out towards Taunton down King Street. How are they going to get through? This, we don't know what they were, obviously, so they're not publicised. It could be incidents on the beach, it could be people in trouble in the sea, or it could be motor accidents. And they would never, ever have got through if you've got all these lorries. So I think it's worth, one of the things that we need to pick up is the accessibility for emergency vehicles.
Is that on? Yeah. Tim Kirby, a new parish councillor. I'm unconvinced by the choice of the route, and these last submissions that they've put through have left me even less convinced by the way they've chosen it, and I do think it's for commercial reasons. I think it's, as has been said before, it's going to result in unacceptable lasting damage to delicate ecosystems. It's going to have unacceptable damage to tourism, and it's going to have unacceptable damage to the well-being and health during the construction phase particularly. And I propose therefore we put our objections in against that as we had before, detailed by Tracy, but we include the submissions that Adrian and David added for additional emphasis from the points raised today.
One area I would like to comment on personally is from the MMO. It is now a marine conservation area around and zone around London. It has so many protections on that area around London. I was reading them this afternoon and they go on and on and on. It's got every protection it could possibly have. We had our marine conservation area, voluntary one, in 1971. In 1986, it became a marine conservation zone when the national law changed. And since then, it's gone on with all those protections. Now, they're looking to construct this beside Lundy. And Lundy has such an environmental strength, so many things to do with the substructure, the wildlife, and you can list the wildlife that are directly affected because of the sea around Lundy. It's an opaque zone for fishing, as some of you may know, and it's not something we want to endanger. We're not going to get it again, because the point that is made by the government, and the MCZ is set by government, is that once you make any noise disturbance, and don't forget noise under the sea affects wildlife more, it's echoes, once you disturb them, they don't come back. And in today's climate, with climate change, they're not coming back probably means that that species disappears completely because it's just destroyed. And that's one of the areas that I'd like to add to our comments, is it is very important. I think I said earlier, it's actually 50 years. And 50 years for protection to the land on the seabed, which leads to us, is so important and must be protected. And I think one of the things in terms of all of it, that I did say last time. We all support green renewable energy, but where is the logic in supporting one green thing and getting another one? Where is the logic in getting rid of the areas, unique areas, that we have in North Devon and around our coast, so you can do other green projects? It doesn't seem to me to make an awful lot of sense. It might do to them, but I guess that might be something called pound, shillings and pence. You're going to be basic, because it just doesn't make sense. You've got to protect all of our environment, not just bits of it. Any other councillors? Adrian, I think I can see you waving your hand to it.
Two clicks.
Is it working now? Yeah, it is. Just briefly, there's another project, a renewable energy project, where a cable is coming ashore called X-Links, which we've seen as a council. That cable route runs very close to Yelland. It wouldn't, by any stretch of the imagination, be worth pursuing, asking the two companies, X-Links and Whitecross, to work together. You know, we need a joint infrastructure project in this country that comes from central government, because at the moment it's like the Wild West of planning. People are just putting applications randomly. So you know, we could ask as a community that X-Links and Whitecross work together, because from what I've seen of the drawings for the X-Links route, Whitecross could easily go into that route, which is coming ashore at Cornborough, which is near Westwood Hoe, and then going across the Torridge and passing in through farmland very, very close to Yelland. So Whitecross could preserve their licence with National Grid, and then we would avoid all that disruption. But I mean, obviously the construction lorries would still have to rumble over to that side of the estuary, and that might be a contentious issue, but surely X-Links are doing that as well. So please ask for a joined up approach from these developers. We need a national offshore grid infrastructure plan, which we don't have at the moment. So yeah, that's the final point I'd like to make.
That isn't a rhetorical question. It is actually a question. I think the answer is that they said last time, at the last meeting that pretty nearly everybody here attended, they said that they weren't interested in linking up with anybody else. That would be very nice. Somebody could put a lot more pressure on them. But one way for the pressure to be put on is for this application to be refused. If it's refused, they've got two choices. They either appeal it and try and get it past an inspector of planning, or alternatively, they've got to adopt another course. That other course could be to go up the estuary, and it might cost more money. But that might be better from their point of view than running the risk of an appeal. But certainly in joining it up with anybody else, they ruled that out last time they were here.
We actually have closed the public participation.
I'm sorry, I'm just answering a question.
Yeah, we have discussed the X-Links project, because it did come to us. It goes in at Cornborough, as Adrian said, and up to Alberdisca. If you read the details of this one, it's going in at Yelland. Yelland isn't big enough. So where's it going? Alberdisca. Up from Yelland to Alberdisca, which is a highly built up area around Yelland. So it's still connecting up along there. But the time scales are different. That's why Flotation, Whitecross, said they wouldn't work with it, because they've got their licence first, and X-Links hasn't yet. It's a longer process. But that's where that one will go. But yeah, we can estimate that. Councillors, are there any other points that you wish to make? One bit that was mentioned by somebody is the situation with marshes and the banks. Now, Horsey Island, many will remember, did have a bank all the way around it as part of the original drainage for the marshes. And when that collapsed, Horsey is now underwater, which is one of the protections through to that area. And the point was made that if the banks go and there's a lot of traffic on the toll road, then the water will be immersed into, anyway, they won't be able to fight it because it will be the sea. And it's getting awfully close to Braunton when it starts that. The reason the banks were put there in the first place by the Dutch engineers was to protect Braunton. So I think that's something that I would like to put in, is our protection for the marshes, but for the banks and for that area. Right, now, any other councillors wish to speak? Norma?
I'd just like to say that, you know, I will be voting to object to this the same as we did previously, and there's a lot of points that's been made by a lot of people here that have got really expert knowledge on certain things which some of which we didn't hear before, so I think I'm sure that Tracy will add some of those points to our objections. And you know, one of the things that I found quite disturbing reading the Whitecross's route assessment summary was that despite all the different objections they've listed, they actually say nobody had objected to the route, which which is actually in their assessment summary, and underneath the list of all the different breakdown of the different objections of the road, all the list, and saying that no one has objected to the route, which obviously the application is for the route, so these objections are against the route. So it seemed very strange to me, but you know, I think we've heard such a lot tonight from the people that are passionate about this, and we may not say very much ourselves because we are very passionate as well, but we've listened to everything you want to say, and you know, we support, well I do, I support what you've said, and I'm sure most of the council, all our councillors probably do as well, so that's all I needed, all I wanted to say. Thank you.
I think just on that, it is worth with the report that's in their report about the public consultation here. I'm not sure they went to the same meeting as me, because I didn't hear anybody, and certainly nobody from the council, who was supportive. So I think they wrote about a different consultation somewhere, but certainly not in Braunton. Now, if anybody else from councillors wish to speak, I will summarise. It's been proposed for refusal, but and I think there's lots of nods from councillors on that one. I'd like to propose that we submit as part of ours the submission that we made last time, because I don't think any councillors have anything they wish to change from what we said last time. That we put the two in together, because it would be quite good for the MMO, which is a government, is part of the government, to actually hear our objections on the rest of it, because they do all relate together. So I would suggest that we add to this, councillors, please, to the previous comments that we made, the points made by Adrian and David on terms of the area. Can we make surfing? Yes. It's worth just as an aside on that, saying when I was on district council, which was quite a long time ago, surfing was worth £50 million to the economy. Once you get that today, it's greatly increased. So surfing, we need to have, Tracy's going to have the job of writing all this up. The reserve around Lundy, the marine conservation zone, and the effects on that, the effects on the banks and on the protection system around the marsh from the sea, as well as coming from the water coming the other way. Parking, traffic, and we know from the traffic, as we said, on Sunday. So the traffic issues caused at Thornton, stop me if I've got any of this wrong, councillors, the suggested, we haven't had a planning application, but the proposed parking area that they're proposing, and the fact that this will be totally inadequate, and I personally, everybody else agrees with me, don't think it will get used, quite frankly, and the points made about that land anyway. Abolishing one green area to put in other green things, which is very quixotic. Anything else, councillors? No? Well, yeah, I think Tracy will pick up about the car parking, whether people will use it anyway. But if you've got all of the things that people seem to take to the beach these days, the thought of putting it on a little minibus is about nil, I think. So we'll make that point. Anything else, councillors? No. Do you want to summarise, Tracy?
So the council has the same concerns as it did previously regarding the adverse impacts on the protected designated sites, ecology, watercourses and drainage ditches, protected species, light and impact on our dark skies, wintering and migrating birds, impact on the landscape and visual amenity, traffic impact on the village centre and construction traffic on site, and the impact on the local economy and tourism. In addition to that, the council would also like to raise concerns regarding the ecological assessment and that this should be considered on the wider context of the area, the groundwatering issues and dewatering of the area, in particular the marshes, and also the impact the onshore cable will have on the surf, that no research has been carried out on the contours of the seabed, and also the importance of the neighbourhood plan policies, which are any one, locally valued sites of biodiversity and habitat, any two, protection of the Cane Valley bats and SSI and the parish bat population, any three, protecting and increasing parish's biodiversity, any four, protecting Devon banks, hedgerows and trees, any five, protecting the footpath, bridleways and cyclepath networks, any six, protection of landscape and character, any seven, protection of parish's strategic nature areas, any eight, watercourses and drainage, BE4, adoption of appropriately scaled renewable energy, BE9, vehicle movement assessments, BE10, improving transport accessibility and connectivity, BE11, protecting existing car parking capacity for public use, BE12, protecting and improvement of air quality, and BE13, protect and promote dark skies. In addition to that, we'd also like to pick up the NPPF, National Plan and Policy, paragraphs 11 and 12, as we do not feel that the application is sustainable, the benefit does not outweigh the economic and environmental harm.
Can you also add the marine conservation zone? You've got that written down, I thought we had. Right, councillors. Anything else you wish to add? No? Sorry I'm going on a bit, and this we don't normally do perhaps on planning, but it's important we get it all down. Tracy's got to write all this up, don't forget as well. So that has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour of that refusal? That is unanimous. We've never quite had a response. So just shows that it is what people want, and we will carry on doing it. So please do write your objections in on the District Council website, on the planning site, because they won't get considered otherwise. And do keep us, anything you wish to do through to Helen in this on future work can be done through Tracy. The office is there, and that's what our parish office is for. It's for you all to come to. Thank you all very much for giving up your time and coming.